Hey guys, Godber here today for another smooth jazz review. I've been wanting to do this video for a long time, however I've been putting it off for various reasons. Today I am outside in sunny Florida. It is January and it is quite warm, and I will probably have quite a few cuts in this video because I'm outside and cars going by and dogs and barking and jets and things like that going by. So anyway, I will try to make this as clean as possible. But today I want to talk about some things that make changes in the tone of the saxophone. I hear a lot of players talking about you know, their setup and mouthpiece hunting and different things that actually are going to change or improve their tone. And so I'd like to talk about my experience with that and 20 years of playing the saxophone, what I found to make the biggest difference. And so I'm going to talk mouthpieces. This is probably going to be a three-part video. Mouthpieces, necks, and the saxophone itself, and show some differences and various mouthpieces, necks, and the horns that are going to make that difference. So first things first, I want to talk mouthpieces. Now basically, my theory behind this is that the further away you get from yourself, the less of a difference it's going to make. So the player being the biggest difference, you know, a good player versus an amateur player, somebody beginning, your tone's going to improve the more you practice, long tones, etc., all that. So all that being said, a good player can play on a student horn, you know, if they're a good player and have a, you know, can have a good mouthpiece set up, but the horn itself could be a cheap student horn and they'll still sound good, you know, provided the horn's set up properly and all that, versus a beginner player playing on a top-of-line Mark 6 with the optimal setup is not going to sound as good as the pro player on a cheap setup. So the player makes the biggest difference, not the equipment. Alright, so you are first and foremost the biggest change in your tone, your embouchure, lung capacity, oral cavity, all these things come into play. That's why not two players can play the identical same setup and sound completely different, because they are different. Alright, so the way you attack the horn and play is the biggest key. Now, aside from yourself, the further away you get from you, the player, who makes the biggest difference, that's where the changes come into play. So, mouthpiece, reed, ligature, neck, and then the saxophone, in that order, in my experience. So the mouthpiece, aside from the player, being the biggest difference in tonal changes. You know, a high baffle, small chamber mouthpiece can be bright, projecting, versus some large chamber, hard rubber, rollover baffle, or something that's going to have a darker, more coarse sound to it. So that makes a big difference. Now the reed also makes a huge difference, and that alone can be almost as much as a mouthpiece itself, depending on what reed you're playing on. And the ligature makes a difference as well, however not as much as a reed and a mouthpiece. Combine all three of them and, you know, you've got a lot of variables there. Now further away you get, again, from you, the mouthpiece, further down the neck makes a big difference as well, and I'll talk about that in another video. Different necks, bore sizes, shapes, and things like that. Octave, you know, Cannonball has the fat neck underslug octave key, and that makes a difference. And then further you get from that is the saxophone itself. Now, I'm not downplaying the sax, saying that the sax doesn't make a difference. It does. You know, a Selmer Mark 6 is going to sound a lot different than some cheap horn from China. However, it doesn't make as big of a difference as you, and then the mouthpiece. So it can make a big difference. You know, there's bright horns, dark horns, and things like that. But I'm talking about the big, as soon as you set, you know, play on it, difference, and also the difference that your audience is going to notice. Because we as a player, you know, the sound is coming away from us. Unless we're playing against the wall, we're going to hear, you know, some of the difference than what the audience is hearing that we're playing to, or in the room. Room sizes make a difference. There's so many variables, but we're talking mouthpieces. So, with that said, I'm going to show you 3 mouthpieces. I don't have a lot of mouthpieces. I have what I use. If I don't use it, I get rid of it. So I have three mouthpieces, and 1 or 2 are my main ones, and then the other one's kind of a backup. So I've got what you see here. We've got a Dukoff, Miami Dukoff. This is a D6. You know, some of these are really good, some of them not as much, and then the modern ones are said to have not be as good as the vintage ones like this. I don't know. This one plays good. I like it. It's a high baffle mouthpiece. So, you know, it's got a pretty rockin' tone, bright, but it's also pretty fat sounding as far as high baffle mouthpieces go. This is my main mouthpiece. It's a Vigilante NY II, very similar to what Paul Taylor plays. He plays on one of these as well. Big fan of the Vigilante mouthpieces. That's what I play on tenor as well. Jennifer Price makes these amazing mouthpieces. They're handmade. Each one's a little different. And then this is a one of a kind. He made a few of them, but Dave Jerry made, well, he called some Jerry Jazz DVs, basically a handmade version of, similar to the Jody Jazz DV mouthpiece, which I used to play. He's got some different changes. And what these are, you could find these on eBay for a little while, and you can contact him. He still makes them. He's a cool guy, by the way. I've been dealing with him for years, and he's made some amazing mouthpieces for me. I used to play a Jody Jazz DV. You know, those are great mouthpieces as well. Very expensive, but they're very nice mouthpieces. Dave Jerry you'll see these like these Chinese copy mouthpieces on eBay for like 30 bucks, and this is one of those. But essentially, you're buying a blank. It's not faced properly. It may play decent. I don't know. Don't expect to get a good mouthpiece for $30, okay? But what he did is he would buy them and reface them professionally. He put like this bullet baffle in there, and just even out the table, the rails and everything, and make it a good player. You can see he took a lot of plating off, sanding it and getting it right. But it's a great mouthpiece, plays amazingly well. And like I said, I had a DV Jody Jazz 7 at the time, and I really like this. And he sold this to me for 200 bucks. It's a killer mouthpiece. Now the plating's well worn off, and you know, Chinese gold plating isn't all that, but it's got silver plating underneath it, so it's still okay. But killer mouthpiece, very bright, very fat. It actually has like a tenor facing on it, if you can see that baffle. Very amazing, very vibrant mouthpiece. And I actually sold my DV, Jody Jazz DV, because I actually like this one better. Very bright and fat. Anyway, so these are my 3 main mouthpieces on alto that I use, and I'm going to show you the differences between them, that each mouthpiece has a tone of its own. Of course, the similarities there because I'm the same player, but I'm going to use the same reed. It's a Leger Signature Series and a Silverstein ligature. Alright, so we'll start off with my main mouthpiece, a Vigilante NY II. so that is just a quick snapshot of 3 different mouthpieces playing something similar, and to hear the tonal differences. Hopefully the camera kind of picked up on those differences. And again, they're all bright mouthpieces. They're all high baffle mouthpieces, but they each have their differences and variances. So, the next video, part 2, will be about saxophone necks and the differences with those, and then we'll get into different horns. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for part 2. Yeah! Yeah, no problem. I'm doing a YouTube video. So